All right. So, the debate is about, you've heard about companies like Mumias, Kenya Airways, and Uchumi going down. And we know that recently the government has been bailing them out. So today, the proposers are, should government bail them out? Proposers would be like, no, let them settle themselves and get out of the situation that they're in. Are we ready? Okay, who's ready? Who's ready? You're from?
Precious blood.
Okay, we have Team Precious Blood. Ladies, please come up to the stage.
A sailor does not abandon his ship. A shepherd does not abandon his flock. A leader should not abandon his people. A father does not abandon his son when in trouble. Should the government bail out companies in financial trouble? My answer is yes. Ivy Komboka again, Precious Blood. Now, why exactly do I say that the government should bail out these companies? As I said earlier, the government is our leader. They're the people responsible for the welfare of the people in this country. And they have major shares in some of these companies. For example, in Kenya Airways, the government owns 49%. Mumia's 21%. And that's the major reason why they're called shareholders. They share in the profits and in the losses. So when these companies were making profits, the government was busy enjoying these profits. But right now when they're making losses, why does the government want to run away from them just because they're making losses? No, I think that the government should bail these companies out because these companies are the major companies that we have in Kenya. And once they're restored back to where they were, they'll definitely take Kenya to greater heights. And another thing is that we see in some of these companies like Mumia's, most of their financial problems are caused by the political appointees who are from the government. They siphon money into their private accounts. Honestly, this is not right because these political appointees are from the government. So if the government is the one causing this problem, they should be the same people to fix this problem. I'll leave you with a quote. One of the tests of leadership is the ability to recognize a problem before it becomes an emergency. The government should fix this problem before it is an emergency. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Gerald Koske, and I'm on the proposing team. Well, why should the government bail out companies like Mumias, Kenya Airways, and Uchumi? Well, we say that if the company doesn't bail out such companies, if the government doesn't bail out these companies, we'll see companies, if I just single out Kenya Airways, the consequence of not bailing out, we'll lose job employment. The employment rate will decrease drastically. For instance, in Kenya Airways, if they get liquidated, they lose 4,000 jobs, which will amount to practically 10 billion per year, which is a huge amount of money to the government. And then to my second point, I'd like to mention on competition and market dominance. If a company like Uchumi isn't bailed out, they'll end up being liquefied or ending up in receivership or end up in the private sector. If they don't get bailed out, companies like Tuskys, they'll get dominance over the market, and they'll monopolize the market. So therefore, I stand in the opinion that the government should come in handy in terms of bailing out companies, but then they should also not just give companies money, but then they should tell the company that I'm giving you 4.2 billion in the instance of Kenya Airways, and they tell Kenya Airways that this is what we require of you. That's what the Federal Reserve in America does. They bail our company out and they tell them this is what we expect from you. But in Kenya, that's not the case. They just give them the money. So if the government just changes on that, then it should be perfect. Thank you.
I am Victor Kimondo in here to tell you why governments should bail out the companies. In the case of Kenya, Kenya is an agricultural-based income. Our economy heavily depends on the sector of agriculture. Take Mumia's Sugar Company, for instance. We all grew up taking Mumia's sugar. I still do in school. Now when I hear Mumia's is suffering, Mumia's has been closed down for a month because of the scandals it's undergoing. we tend to understand that Mumias was invincible. And Mumias is the face of our country in terms of sugar export and sugar usage in the country. If you don't bail out companies such as this, and then we start to import sugar, like the Uganda-Kenya sugar deal, the Brazilian sugar imported into Kenya, the illegal sugar shown during a presentation here, if that happens, we are promoting another country's income. We are not promoting our own income. When the government insists on not bailing out these companies, that lot will happen. But now Mumias was actually bailed out by the government, and now the company was restructured, and they're on the rise. When you look at the effects that the bailout gives, the bailout is not just a handout, it's a loan. When these companies are given the bailout, the clause is that this money you have to give it back. So they are prompted to grow and prompted to use this money effectively. Thank you.
Continuing with proposing, as we all know, the pride of Kenya, the pride of Africa, this is Kenya Airways. What sugar have you been taking since you are a young girl? As my colleague just said, Mumias sugar. When you think of sugar, think big, think Mumias. And that's why the government needs to bail out these companies. Because first of all, they are the shareholders in this company, major shareholders, and also KQ gives up to 7 billion revenue to the government, whether in profit or losses. So does the government really want this to go down in waste? They should bail these companies out so that they can be able to help these companies to be able to go back to where they're supposed to be. And as a leader of Kenya, the government should bail us out, because they are the ones to determine where we are supposed to be as our leaders.
So let's look at this from a different perspective. Let's not bail out KQ, Mumias, and Uchumi. It will affect the Kenyan economy, one, through job creation and living standards. The critical state of this country can't even be crippled anymore. Look at this. KQ gives Kenyans 4,000 jobs. That's 4,000 jobs down the drain, worth 10 billion every year. We have purchases, 50 billion. Annual forex earning is 50 billion also. That means 50% of the Kenyan government's money. The massive destruction of the floriculture export trade. Mind you, floriculture is the biggest export earning for this country. That is another 50 billion down the street. Given 2 years that we don't resolve this and bail out KQ, 300 billion for this country. Our country is in a crippled state. Could it handle any more? We have the fact that the government will be forced into increasing indirect tax, leading to inflation. This means that our economic structure will have to be restructured and our fiscal policies gone through again. A quote by Margaret Whitley says, "The things we fear in most organizations, fluctuations, disturbances, imbalances, are primary sources of creativity." So all these companies are going through all this. Did you ever think that the problems could be sorted out? An example, Uchumi, the Sarit Center branch. Julius Kipngetich, who came to power 1st September last year, got the Sarit Center refurnished and back to business. So if this can happen, what tells you can't happen with all the other companies?
Tony Nyaoke, Alliance High School. Okay, so for me, mine is just going to be that I'm supposed to tell you all guys that this is a clear-cut situation. Because if we do not really get to bail out KQ, neither do we bail out Mumias, one of the things that is supposed to happen, because I really strongly believe that entrepreneurship is not just about the profits that we get from the various parastatals, but it's also about the impact that you're able to make in individual people's lives. Because I know, one thing that I know for sure, at one point in their individual lives, they had turbulences. But when the turbulence come, what are you supposed to do? Are you supposed to run away from the very people? Because this is Kenya, this is our country. We have to stand together, and during these hard times, we don't really need to run away from KQ, we don't need to run away from Mumias sugar. But rather, we are supposed to ensure that we work together and try and promote and ensure that these companies are back on their individual feet. Then one last thing is that, just as I said earlier on, actually for me, I don't really see the real need of essence, because one of the things is that we normally spend too much time arguing about some of these things that are so much clear-cut. This is something that actually by now I expected that the government, instead of sitting around and debating so much about things that for me they don't really count, Rather, the government should have already spent its money, and KQ and Mumias and the other company is already back to its own feet. Thank you very much.